So we'll try again. I'm trying to describe the good parts of my father, but I have to try to ignore. Like, most kids will go, "Well, my father taught me how to drive. He taught me how to play catch." No, people were teaching me to use stilts and trying to play catch with me when I was in foster care. But yes, my father did teach me how to catch, and he gets credit for that. But he wasn't the first person. But yeah, he did that in Texas. I remember playing catch with him in Texas when things normaled out a little bit. When things got normal, I gotta say, things got a little normal for 2 years in Texas. Probably the best years I had were in Texas, and they weren't that good. But yes, I got to play ball with my father at least, and there wasn't a lot of drugs, and my mother wasn't trying to hurt me, but I also was not getting medical care for my illness. I still was wearing extra jackets more than any other kid because I had a problem with my nervous system. Also, right before we moved to Texas, I was going to the doctors and speaking up about an overdose, and my mother was trying to avoid it and making up stories. And because my mother was making up so many stories, there was lots of drugs I didn't needed being given to me. And on top of this, my mother was not properly administering these medications. She was also adding on her own medications. So I was experiencing an overdose where I lost my vision and my nervous system and never got my nervous system fully back. On top of this, she gave me a full bottle of Epicac as a punishment and then told everybody about it like it was some normal thing. Then she was taking away my accomplishments to fuck up my head. Then she was giving me pills and drugs when I'm supposed to be going to an adoption party, so I look depressed and tired, but really I'm just curling up on the floor and passing out. I passed out in the car on the seat. I passed out on the wooden bench during the adoption, and then I passed out in a chair, or nobody will let me fall asleep, so they're waking me up, keeping me awake in a chair, but I just want to find a place on the floor to fall asleep. And my mother is not telling any of the other adults that she just gave me drowsy pills. Instead, she's trying to make up mental illnesses again. So we got that happening. And then I get moved to Texas. And things normal out a little bit because doctors will not let my mother do that in Texas because they've caught on a little bit. But then I bring it up again. Then I bring up the overdose because I need medical care. I want help. I want to get better. But my mother doesn't want me better. She doesn't want me getting help for that one. No. She might have to take responsibility for her actions. So then she moves me to New Mexico. Then she moves me to Maine. Keeps on trafficking me around. What really helps people get away with crimes. While my mother's doing this, my father's acting neglectful and just letting her get away with whatever she wants to get away with. And he continues this behavior all the way until she dies in 2011. Now, why did she die? Because my father was letting her do whatever she wanted. She started popping Vicodin that were mine. I'm not kidding. An emergency room gave a 16-year-old Vicodin because I was getting such severe headaches from the medication my mother wanted me on. Oh, so severe, sending me to the ground screaming in pain. But anyways, my mother wanted those Vicodin, so she took them herself. Now, I told my father this. I said, my mother is taking my Vicodin. That's not good. She's not prescribed those and she shouldn't be taking them. My father says, it's only one time. You're in trouble, not her. So I get in trouble just for what? Reporting what I'm seeing. That's it. I saw my mother steal my meds. I reported it to my father and it got turned around on me by my mother. Um, there was no turnaround. She just got upset. Whenever my mother got upset, my father just got upset with her. That's how it worked. My mother was in trouble. She got scared. She said it was only one time, even though we all know it wasn't only one time. We know she was taking lots of pills way before that. And she took my Xanax before that, too. So it wasn't just one time. But she says, oh, just one time. And then she gets all mad. Well, why are you watching me? I'm not watching you. I'm watching why my meds are disappearing. But anyways, so you have all that going on with a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old who is supposed to be the adult, but yet I'm getting hurt with drugs. And I don't think my father was too complicit in it. I think he was complicit in the neglectful behavior. I think he was complicit in letting his wives do whatever the hell they want. They can be hurtful verbally. They can say things that aren't true. They can make up fantasies. They can stretch the truth. And my father will back them up on it. But I don't think he really knew what he was doing. I think my father is literally just a puppet, a sheep. I don't think he realizes that there was a child dying at his feet. I don't think he realizes that giving a child extra medicine is bad, because I asked him in front of my mother, admitted to giving me a full bottle of Epicac. She said, I gave him extra drugs as a punishment. So what? So I looked at my sister and her husband. I looked at my father and I said, does nobody in this house see a problem with giving a child that is only 7 years old extra medication as a punishment? Does nobody see a problem in this? And my sister goes, hell yeah, there's a problem. And her husband goes, hell yeah, there's a problem. But then I look at my father, and my father goes, no, there's nothing wrong with that. So I think my father's been lied to by my mother so many times that now he's just complicit in it, because he's manipulated. My father has been manipulated by his second wife, and then she died because she could get away with whatever she wanted. She could drink as much as she wanted. She could take as much pills as she wanted. She could blame it on me. I'll give you an example of one time I never got caught, but if I did, my mother was ready to blame me. So when I was about 16, or I should say older, I was about 17 or so, I was already starting to dabble in the marijuana, trading pills, taking them myself. Well, one day, I'm in the medicine cabinet with permission, and I see a bottle of Percocet that's expired and really old with my father's name on it, which I know he will never take them, and they're expired. So, what do? Nothing. I leave, and I leave them there for months. But then one day my addiction gets to me, and I do something really wrong. I ask for permission to use the bathroom over there or take a shower there, and I do. But then I end up lying, because then I take the pills out of the bottle. And I take like 3, and I take them. Then a month later, I go back to take some more, and I take 3 more, or 5, or whatever. And then I'm done. I have a little stash. I don't really have a large addiction. I'm not, I only take one, smoke a joint, because the Tylenol upsets my stomach. Still to this day, that's a problem. I can't take Percocet with Tylenol, because these were those 5 milligram Percocet. I think it was 350 or 500 of Tylenol, maybe 1,000. I think it was 500 Tylenol, 5 milligram Percocet, and they're mixed in the same pill. So if I take 2 of those, my stomach, I can't take enough to get high of those. I figured that out a long time ago, and that's because I figured out Tylenol bothered me. So I take 1, I gotta take it with food. I take 2, oh, we're pushing it. 3, and my stomach goes sour. So the Tylenol is a problem in a lot of those for me. But anyways, I got 8 now, and I'm good. But I go back to make it an even 10. I want to grab a couple more because there's a good sized bottle, and I'm counting in between. I know exactly how many I'm taking because I'm counting. But all of a sudden, when I go back this last time, there's 5 or 3 more missing than the last count. So I don't take any. I just go back and I write down the number. So then I wait about another couple weeks. I take the ones I have. I still have 3 left. And I go back to the bottle and I check them again. Now there's more missing and I haven't been there. So I write down the number. And I take 1. I take 1 off the top. Then I go back to the room and I got the number again. Then when I check again, there's more missing. Somebody else is taking this prescription without me. There's more and more and more of these missing, and I'm not the one taking them. Well, this is what happened. My mother caught me. My mother knew I was taking the prescriptions. She was very sneaky like that. She knew that I was taking my father's expired Percocet. But see, here's the problem. My father wouldn't allow either of us, my mother or me, to take those. If she asked my father, yes, but to get high off them, take 5 of them, no. And the way she was taking them was a bunch at once. So, what do I do about this? Nothing. If I admit to it, I get caught. So what I have to do is just keep an eye on it. I watch them go down and down like she's trying to race me or something. I stop. I already got my supply. Now I know I'm in trouble. My mother knows I'm taking them, but she keeps on taking them and nobody seems to be punishing me. What's going on? Well, my mother knew that if she told my father that I was taking these pills, there would be a big uproar in the whole house. Not just that, my mother was doing stuff prior that she shouldn't have been. She was giving me drugs. She had me on Thorazine, Seroquel, Haldol. She also got me high as a child. She was giving me opiates on a plane. So she knew what she was doing, and she was partly responsible for my addiction, even though I'm making choices for myself. I take full responsibility for my addiction. But when my mother was thinking about this, I'm sure that's what she was thinking. So instead, she said, this is an opportunity for me to take these pills, and if I get caught, I can just say Zach did it. Because Zach did do it. So, this is how my mother worked a lot of the times with the stuff I really did do. She would keep out the context. She would leave it out. Now, I never got in trouble for this because I ended up just switching them out for regular Tylenol, and then I just left them alone. And then I watched my mother continue taking them for another week after that, just taking the Tylenol. Now, luckily, she didn't take that much at the end. She was taking 2 at a time by the end. But she was much higher in the beginning. But by the time I switched them, she was taking 2 out of the bottle, and she was getting ready to blame me if I ever got caught. But luckily, I stopped, and my father never realized that those pills were taken, and there was half the bottle missing by his wife and me. So we never got caught, and what I did was wrong. But what my mother did was even more wrong. She took way more pills out of that bottle than I took. Way more. She was finishing them off. And I was only a teenager that didn't know shit. I was a stupid person. But my mother and father were grown-ass adults. My mother was in her 60s, and she used to be a nurse. She must know better. I don't. I've never been a nurse at 16, 17. I'm just realizing what addiction is. I still don't know what's going on with my body. I still don't have any education proper to succeed. I'm getting, my mother is doing sick stuff. She's drinking heavily. Her liver's now failing from doing stupid stuff because a year later she kept on drinking and she was popping other pills. Like after this, my mother started popping my Vicodin too. I'm not even kidding, and she got caught for that one. I got sent to the emergency room with severe, severe headaches, severe migraines that would send me to the floor screaming in pain, and then I would shake a little bit. The reason why I would end up on the floor from pain is I can't use my nervous system if I have a headache. Anyways, I went to the emergency room. They gave me Vicodin, and my mother thought it was okay to steal my Vicodin, just like I and my mother took my father's, but he didn't want them. I need those. I need those in case I have another on the ground attack. That's why they're there. They're there in case I get hurt. My father did not want those expired pills. These are brand new pills, and my mother just stealing them. That's not the first time either. When I was about 13, 12, I had an old prescription of Xanax, and my mother wiped it out. Was swallowing those too. I used to play with her costume jewelry back then, with permission, and there was always pills near her costume jewelry that were old, and she left the bottle of Xanax there so in the morning she could pop them. All the other bottles were in her shoebox, but this Xanax on the counter, because she liked the Xanax. My mother liked the Xanax and the opiates. She hated the Ritalin. She never touched my Ritalin. But my father, whenever I try to bring this to him, whenever I try to tell my father about this type of stuff, he would just totally believe the nonsense and go into a fantasy land yelling at me. But, like I said, my father is a good person who I love and I have forgiveness for because he was being lied to. All he has to do is come out of fantasy land. That's it. My father just has to come out of fantasy land and face the truth that my mother hurt me bad. I mean, she died in 2011 of liver failure. And if you think, well, that's not enough, you telling him this stuff isn't enough. That's not all. My mother's own son, Jeff, told my father that there's a lot of problems with her. I told my father for 25 years that there were problems with her and problems with my health from her. My sister also were telling my father that something was wrong with her, and also heard that there was something wrong with me because she was giving me drugs. My brother also told my father, this is my oldest brother who has a psychology degree, that something was really crazy with her and he needs to look out and he needs to control her. Their own grandson was scared to visit because of her behavior and saw me getting beat by her, and everybody knew I was getting beatings by her with rulers, smackings, whatever you want to call it, shoes in the eyeballs, whatever that is. If you call ruler smacking face with the corner that's made out of metal, if you call backhands in the car or smacks in the car, smacks in the hallway, or a shoe hitting me in the forehead, missing my eye by an inch, whatever you want to call that. So we got a grandson who's afraid to visit because he's seeing that shit. Me, I think that shit's normal. I think getting hit with a ruler is normal, so it doesn't bother me at all. Still to this day, getting hit with a ruler never fazed me. I don't think that physical abuse like that is that severe because my mother destroyed my organs with an overdose, and I'll have to live the rest of my life with a seizure disorder where if I move my thumb, my nervous system reacts in other places, all because of her doing other types of abuse. But the ruler, I healed within a day. When she smacked my head with that ruler, yeah, I had a red mark, but that went away in a day. When she smacked me with her hand, it went away in a day. Yeah, it was in the face, but it went away in a day. So I don't care about that shit. But it scared her own grandson. She was scaring her own grandson away. So the whole family has brought up to my father that there's something wrong with his second wife before she started passing away. Then she died and passed away from liver failure. And the last time I saw my mother, her liver was at 20%. She was turning yellow, and she was blowing past me to get to a liquor cabinet. And then she was pouring herself a drink. And my father was letting her drink with liver failure while in the kitchen. This was the last memory I have of my mother. So, my father knows that this is real. He has to face it. He has to admit that it's real. Then he has to try to clean up his mess. And then, I mean, that's just words. All he has to do is speak words. He doesn't have to lift. He doesn't have to drive. He just has to speak the truth to the right people. So that way I can get medical care and not live in a dead woman's fantasy.